I didn't plan on changing my life between a night shift and a sunrise, but that's what happened. My name is Emma, and I've been a delivery nurse for 9 years. I know the sound of panic before it reaches the room. I know the smell of antiseptic mixed with fear. I know the exact look people get when they realize birth and death share a hallway. Faith wasn't my thing. I grew up in Leeds with a mum who lit a candle at Christmas, and a dad who joked that football was our family religion. I liked control. I liked protocols and checklists and monitors that tell you what's going on inside a person. I thought if you set enough alarms, nothing horrible could sneak up on you. It was a Tuesday night in January when she came in, 35 weeks, first baby, blood pressure like a rocket. We moved fast, magnesium, IV, fetal monitor. The baby's heart rate dipped, climbed, dipped again. I looked at the screen and knew we were on the edge. The husband stood quietly by the bed, hands trembling but steady where it mattered, whispering something in Arabic I didn't understand. The woman's name was Layla. His was Musa. Emma, my consultant said, "We're going to theater now." I nodded, clipped the side rails, and we rolled. On the way, the lights moved across Layla's face like waves. She clenched her jaw and whispered, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil." I'd heard Arabic in this hospital 1,000 times, but that night the words carried a weight I couldn't explain. I strapped the monitor, checked the drip, counted instruments in my head. Musa followed, lips moving, eyes steady. When we got to theater, the baby's heart rate plummeted. My stomach dropped. Controlled calm went brittle. The anesthetist was already at her head. The consultant's voice sharpened. "We're going now." Emergency C-section. The clock on the wall sounded louder than usual. I pressed the suction, handed instruments, watched crimson widen across the surgical drape. I do this for a living. It still felt like drowning. Then Musa stood just outside the sterile field and asked softly, Can I recite?" No one stopped him. He placed his hand on the air between himself and Layla, not touching, like he was holding something precious just above her. And he began. It wasn't loud. It wasn't for us. It was a current of sound that slipped under the beeps and the ordered chaos. Words I didn't know. A cadence I felt in my ribs. The room didn't change, but I changed in it. My hands were moving, my training was firing, but part of me was anchored to that voice, to the way Layla's breathing synced with it, to the way the consultant's movements seemed to square with something I couldn't see. The baby came out blue. I've seen blue babies before. We work, we fight, we call for more hands. The cry is the prize you earn with sweat and seconds. But as I took that tiny, silent body, Musa's voice did something else. He stopped reciting and whispered words with a melody I'd never heard, short and strong, syllables like soft taps on a door. Later, I learned he was giving the adhan, the call to prayer, into his daughter's right ear. In that moment, all I knew was that a father was laying a rope of hope across a chasm. We worked, bag mask breaths, compressions with 2 fingers no bigger than matchsticks. My world narrowed to that baby's chest, rising, falling, not enough. The consultant's voice pulsed in and out. The clock kept marching. Then, like a match catching a stubborn wick, the baby gasped. A small, angry creature sound split the air. I laughed. I cried into my mask. I have never loved noise the way I loved that cry. We wrapped the baby, and I brought her to Layla. "She's okay," I said, voice shaking. "She's okay." Musa kissed his wife's forehead and then his daughter's. He whispered, "Alhamdulillah." All praise is for God. I watched their faces, the relief, the tears, and something else. Gratitude that wasn't pointed at surgeons or luck or the indifferent universe. Gratitude aimed, deliberate and steady, like they knew exactly where to send it. We stabilized Layla. Hours passed in stitches and drips and checks. Near dawn, when it was quiet, I went to the tea room with my hands still smelling like chlorhexidine. Musa walked in carrying a styrofoam cup as if it were fine china. He looked tired, wrecked, radiant. "Thank you," he said. "You were calm when we were not." I wasn't, I admitted, surprising myself. I was pretending. He smiled. Sometimes pretending is a mercy. I wanted to say, "Your recitation, what is it? Why did it feel like the room sat up straighter? Instead, I said, "What did you whisper when she was born?" "The adhan," he replied. "The first words our daughter hears are the words that call us to remember Allah. It's a tradition, a way to say, you belong, you're part of something eternal." Eternal. I turned the word in my head like a coin under a light. I went home at 8 with the sky blushing thinly over the city. I slept and dreamed of currents that carried me without my permission, and of a door that wouldn't lock no matter how hard I turned the key. A week later, I was back on nights. I saw Layla in postnatal, hair messy, face clear. She was reciting again, softer this time, to her daughter asleep against her chest. I stood in the doorway and listened like a thief. When she finished, I asked, "What do the words mean?" She told me about Surah Maryam, a chapter about Mary, mother of Jesus. She told me about the Qur'an speaking Mary's story with honor and detail I had never heard in church. She said, "When I was pregnant and scared, these verses made me feel seen." I tried to make a joke about a Muslim woman teaching a British nurse about Mary, but it stuck in my throat. I felt something more than irony passing between us. After my shift, I opened my phone and typed, "Quran Mary chapter." I fell into a night of reading where time dissolved. It wasn't dogma that held me. It was the clarity, the way the Quran spoke as if it knew me, the way it described God as near, nearer than my jugular. I was suspicious of my own softness. I bookmarked pages and slammed the laptop shut, then opened it again like a teenager, toggling between rebellion and confession. Days blended into weeks. I started noticing Muslims everywhere, which of course meant they'd been everywhere before, and I simply hadn't seen. A junior doctor stepped into the on-call room between patients, laid out a small mat, and prayed in 4 minutes of muscle memory and surrender. The porter, who always joked with me, stopped mid-shift to break his fast with dates. He offered me one and said, "Bismillah." With such casual reverence, it sounded like breathing with gratitude attached. I asked questions. I expected defensiveness. Instead, I found conversations that let me keep my dignity. I spoke to an elderly Somali grandmother who lost 2 sons and told me with eyes like wet stone, "Allah tests those he loves, and he never wastes a tear." I didn't understand how grief and love could share a sentence without exploding. But I wanted to. I ordered an English translation of the Quran with a blue cover and cheap paper that folded like ocean water. I read in the quiet hours between laundry and night shifts. I argued with the pages. I underlined words I didn't like and circled ones I couldn't let go of. I wrote "why" in the margins more times than I can count, but under all the whys a hum began, steady and low, like the bus you only notice when it stops. One evening, I broke in theater. Not a dramatic collapse, just a crack I felt and heard internally. A patient hemorrhaged faster than we could plug the holes. We did everything right. We lost her anyway. I went into the stairwell and slid down the wall. My hands shook. I stared at the grooves in the metal step. I thought of her family waiting in a room with bad art and worse lighting. I had nothing to give them but sorry and forms. I remembered Layla saying, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil." I didn't know what it meant then. Now I did. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. I closed my eyes and tried the words on my tongue, foreign and heavy. I said them in English. Then in a clumsy Arabic I'd learned phonetically. The words didn't magic away the ache, but the panic that usually scrambled my thoughts moved back a pace, like someone had put a hand on its chest and said, "Not now." I started praying, awkwardly, secretly, not with a mat, not with perfect form, just with my forehead on the floor beside my bed, whispering, "God, Allah, if this is real, make me honest. If it's not, protect me from my own longing." I had always associated prayer with performance, heads bowed in unison, memorized lines. This felt like kneeling at the edge of myself and peering over. Ramadan came. I told myself I was just curious. I fasted one day beside the porter who shared his dates. My head pounded at 3 p.m. I nearly snapped at a junior who was only trying to help, but at sunset, when I poured water into my mouth, it tasted like forgiveness. I broke my fast in the staff room with rice someone's mother had sent, and fruit cut into generous squares. We said Bismillah again, and I thought of belonging to more than my own stubbornness. One night, I texted Layla, "Can I come to the mosque?" My thumb hovered over send. I pressed it anyway. She replied, "Of course, I'll meet you at the door." I expected to feel like a fraud crossing the threshold. I expected side eyes and suspicion. Instead, I felt a softness that made me hurt in a good way, like untying a knot that's lived in a muscle for years. Women welcomed me with tea and questions about my day, not my soul. A teacher sat with me on a faded blue carpet and explained without pressure. Islam is simple. God is one. He sent messengers. Life is a test, but He is merciful. Worship Him alone. Do good, avoid harm, keep returning. I asked the hardest questions I had, about suffering, about destiny, about why God felt so far when He was supposed to be near. She didn't argue me into a corner. She pointed me back to the Qur'an, to lines I had already highlighted, as if the book had been marking me long before I marked it. Truly in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. I waited. I wanted certainty the way a surgeon wants a stable rhythm on a monitor. I didn't get a single moment of cinematic revelation. I got 1,000 small surrenders that added up to a door opening without a creak. On a Sunday in June, after my shift, I sat in my car with rain tapping the windscreen like gentle insistence. I said out loud what my bones already knew. I believe in you, Allah. I believe Muhammad is your messenger. The words were plain in English and then clumsy in Arabic. I cried without embarrassment. I wasn't converting to impress anyone. No one was there. I was answering a call I'd heard for months in the spaces between beeps and grief and babies' first breaths. I told Layla the next day. She hugged me like a sister you don't see often enough. We went to the mosque that weekend. I said the Shahada in front of women who ululated softly and handed me dates and asked what name I liked. Emma, I said. I'll keep Emma. I'm still a delivery nurse. I still love checklists. I still go to pieces when a baby doesn't cry right away and then stitch myself back together with teamwork and training. But now, between the monitors and the math, I carry words that keep me human. When a mother grips my hand and asks, "Will I be okay?" I say, "We are doing everything, and God is with you." When we lose someone, I step into the family room and I don't pretend that medicine failed or that I am more than I am. I sit in the ache and I say a prayer, quietly, for a mercy that outlives flesh. Musa and Layla bring their daughter in for checkups sometimes. She's chubby and fierce and chews on my ID badge if I let her. The last time Musa looked at me after I led the afternoon prayer in a corner of the staff lounge. "You look lighter," he said. "I am," I told him. I didn't know how heavy it was until it lifted. People ask if I've become someone else. I tell them the truth. I became more myself. The me who can sit with mystery without needing to strangle it into certainty. The me who can work hard and let go at the same time. The me who knows that when a baby's first breath breaks a room open, praise has a place to go. I still walk past the theater clock that watched me change. I still hear the adhan in my memory, the soft courage of a father's voice cradling a moment. And when I wash my hands before a delivery now, I whisper, "Bismillah," in the name of Allah, and mean it with every clean, steady beat of my heart.